3 toothless, more than half heavily made up, a few truly ragged. They resembled the hags of Grimm more than Juliet's nurse or any Disney nanny. From far away in this flat city, women had boarded buses to audition for our $15 an hour job. Paul set up a waiting room in the black kitchen. He put out a newspaper and a plate of store-bought cookies, but the 10:45 woman scarfed the cookies. Paul's mother had advised us to ask the women their theories of discipline, but when he asked the first one, she just stared. After that, "Where are you from?" became our opening question. We were new too, Paul explained. We'd moved 5 weeks ago for him to have his chance. When we'd left, I held the baby and Paul carried my precious instrument onto the plane. We'd had to buy the cello its own seat, but Will flew free. Now it hurt to look at the scuffed black case. "Could you please make it home for dinner?" I begged into the phone. "Can't you go earlier and come home earlier?" How had I become like this? Once we'd sat in a restaurant with a candle flame between us. "I have to work late," Paul said to the 11:15 woman. "Most nights I won't make it home for dinner, so we'd need you to help Claire get him to bed." "Sure, okay," the woman said. "But what time I can go?" Paul told her we would check her references. "Would you be able to stay over some nights?" he asked the 11:45 woman. With live-in, his mother had said, long distance, there's never the problem of her calling in sick. Why not? I wondered like an idiot. How do they not get sick? The gums of the 11:45 woman puffed over her teeth. She looked sick already. Paul's own nanny had been a black woman from the South. When she died after living with his family 14 years, only Paul flew to Mississippi for the funeral. Every year at Christmas, he sent a card and $80 to her living daughter. I liked the noon woman from Bangladesh who wore a purple headscarf and looked 15. "How old are you?" 19, she said, waterfalling giggles. "I am the eldest. I have many younger, all brother." I never had a nanny. I had a mom like everyone else I knew, and occasionally a babysitter, a caustic high school girl who was not above mentioning that she was only tending me for the money, $1/4 an hour in those days. Because my mother had to work, after school I walked 3 blocks to a religious bookstore where I was allowed to sit on the floor and page through monographs about saints and listen to the incorrigible girls the owner took in. I loved to watch them crouch over their toenails, stroking on polish with terrible concentration. Then, in 3rd grade, my mother gave me a key, but I lost it. We lived on a street with neighbors whose houses I knew the insides of. If I'd knocked at any one of those doors, I'd have been offered a glass of milk. But I waited outside. When my mother finally lurched up the drive, she screamed, "I'm going to have to string it around your neck." It enraged her, seeing her mittenless kid in the cold. I couldn't choose my life over Paul's for little him. The 12th woman sat silent and nodding, her hair cut like Herman Munster's. "Are you able to live in?" Paul asked. "I want live in, yes," she said. "It's cheaper." "Do you have children?" 6 of the women before, 3 of whom said they could stay overnights, had young children. "No children, no husband, single," she added with a lilt. Paul said, "May I ask you to step out a moment while we call your references?" "Couldn't be better," he said, hanging up from her last one. "Let's try her a week. When could you start?" he asked when we called her back in. She nodded. "Would tomorrow be possible?" She nodded again. Until recently, I thought a nanny was something English from long ago, but now I would have one just because I wanted to work. In college, where everything felt equal already, I'd assumed I'd have children and work. He, the putative he, would work a little less and I'd work a little less, and the kid would have long hair and paint-spattered overalls. William was hairless, and the other he left for the Fox lot every morning and never came home. The doorbell rang, the last woman. William lurched up crying. You get him, and I'll tell her the job's taken, Paul said. I was becoming a woman who sighed. So now I had my baby, and I saw how much my own mother had given. Why so many people feel mad at their mothers. Because whatever childhood was or wasn't, they're the ones who made it. Fathers loomed above it all, high trees. How was the park? I asked when the 12th woman bumped in the stroller. She nodded. William's tiny arms reached for me, his scream high and steady. But her mere presence relieved Paul. Go to work, he said on speakerphone. Go to your office and shut the door. I obeyed. I went up to my office, shut the door, and slept. I began trolling parks. I set up interviews in coffee shops. My adultery, I thought, scanning the tables for the one dark head among blondes. I found Lola sitting on a park bench and hired her without references. I liked the way she looked. She was small, dark, well-joined. The next morning in bed, I told Paul, "Whoa, slow down. I already did it." He stilled his head, blinking. A person likes a little stability in his life. Then you work at home and worry all day. So what do you want to tell this one? I fired the 12th woman. It turned out to be remarkably easy. I gave her money. She nodded and left. I'd always wanted to do no harm. That was my banister. Often in my 20s, leaving my temp job, which I faithfully attended, I walked in the pedestrian stream. Like all those others, black tights, slitted coattails, I made a living. If I tried to do more and failed, at least I would leave the world as I'd found it. But now I had a fresh boy who took every imprint, however faint. I feared that my invisible soul could harm him. I knew my deficiencies, and so I selected a supplement. I hired a happy nanny. I prefer a mother who works, Lola told me, because then I can have the friends of Williamo to the house. When will you be needing me? Yesterday, I said. Okay, so that's the end of, thus the first reading ends. And now this is the voice of the happy nanny. The so-called happy nanny. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Come to Lola. I have something for you, because he is very angry. Today it was the mother he was hitting. She has her hand over her eye, and I dab ice the way I do with his boo-boos. She lets her face in my hands. Then I take him away. But Williamo, he is strong. I cannot so easily hold. And Lola told a lie. I do not have anything. So I make promises. Some a day, I whisper. I will bring you home with me, and there we will make the ice candy. He lies still, not any longer fighting. His bones fall in a pattern like the veins of a leaf. I will put you in my pocket and feed you one candy every day. You will be happy, because the ocean at our place is very blue and the sky higher than here, and the fruits that grow on trees very sweet. Jackfruit, durian, lanzones. In my pocket, I will give you one lychee. You can bounce for a ball. If you were a kangaroo, you would have a pouch. He grumbles. Better now, slower the heart. Through the window, I see my employer. She looks like she has too much assigned to her. She cannot complete it all before she dies. She holds the ice and paces, talking to a woman who reads books about the raising of children. My employer has the American problem of guilt. But you should not be guilty to your children. It is for them that you are working. Williamo, he is better now. Only the mouth smears. I promise him candy, not ice candy, just candy we can buy here. But do not tell your mother. I call. Excuse, we are going now. That okay? Thanks, Lol. My employer believes she cannot live without me. She is telling her friend who reads the books that he is better with me than with her. Lil will say that this is perfectly normal. Playdate, my employer says. I can't even stand the word. Do you have poo-poo? I pull out the diaper. I am paid to smell that. But what she said to a friend is true. With me, Williamo is no problem. My employer, she says, when a baby comes home from the hospital, a Filipina should arrive with him. That, for her, would make a perfect world. I push Williamo in the stroller and he sits. That is the good of fighting. It makes them very tired. The sun is solid like many small weights on our arms. This neighborhood is ours during the daytime. You do not observe mothers, only in and out of cars carrying shopping bags. In my place, I was, at one time, one of these married ladies. Now, when I watch from afar, it looks like a lot of work. I knew from Ruth to work for a working mother. The women who stay home want their babies tucked in cribs for naps so they can tiptoe in and peek. But Williamo, he can sleep in the grass. Today, he will nap in his stroller. I put coconut oil and zinc powder on the nose because Williamo, he is very white, my albino grandson. All the while, I talk to him. In the class of 2010 at Harvard University, there will be 2 Santa Monica boys saying to